What is going on, guys? Matt O'Leary back with another video. A few things that I want to get into today, kind of just a news dump video. There's not a whole lot going on in the NFL world right now, but a couple of stories linked to the New York Jets that I figured we'd talk about. Has a lot to do with former New York Jets. And there's a stat that I want to share with you on that, the turnover on this roster. Let's start with one of those former New York Jets. Hassan Reic was a no-show at OTAs for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I am shocked, floored even, that Hassan Reic did not show up. That sounds like a story that, unfortunately, Jet fans are all too familiar with. What an absolute disaster that was for the New York Jets last year. Can we just talk about that for a second? So, some turnover on the defensive line. John Franklin Myers out. Bryce Huff out. Quentin Jefferson, Al Woods out, and one of the guys that Joe Douglas decides to trade for is Hassan Reic, knowing that he will need a new contract, and there's no movement whatsoever from from either camp on this front. He misses OTAs, minicamp, training camp. He shows up after missing 5-6 games, and then just was a non-factor for this team. He was horrible for the Jets and just totally in it for himself at that point. By the time he came back, was just trying to rack up numbers to get another contract, and even selling out and trying to just rack up the numbers. He wasn't really all that productive from just the stats, like looking at it from the stats. If you look at the film, not very good. You know, we talk about gap integrity and, you know, boring stuff like that, or nerdy stuff like that. Not that I don't find it boring. It's more nerdy, and the average fan maybe isn't looking for, all 22 and watching for gap integrity. But moral of the story, disaster for the New York Jets. And then Todd Bowles and the Bucks turn around and give him a $14 million deal, which is kind of crazy. And he doesn't show up to OTAs. Maybe he turns out to be the guy that he was in Philadelphia, but I'm not holding my breath for that. You also had Terry Bradshaw have some pretty harsh words on Aaron Rodgers and that whole saga going on in Pittsburgh. The quote was, "Go somewhere and chew on bark and whisper to the gods out there." He wants him to stay out in Cali, which is just a phenomenal Terry Bradshaw line. But this impacts the Jets because look at the schedule. Who do they have in week 1? They're playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. Is it going to be Aaron Rodgers or is it going to be Mason Rudolph? It's a huge difference, right? Like, Rudolph, pretty much a career backup. Rodgers, not the guy that he once was, but let's be real here. Aaron Rodgers and Mason Rudolph, even in 2025, is a pretty big difference. What are they going to be going up against? And honestly, the longer this goes on, even if Rodgers does come back, I think it's advantage Jets because you're missing valuable time at OTAs, at mini camp, if this goes into training camp, on getting reps with your team. That's important, especially when you're in a new team, learning a new system, learning a new offense. What is that going to look like? And it kind of leads me back to my original point, is that they needed to move on from that era. And you look at the stats from this offseason, really good numbers put out. Of all the 32 teams in the NFL, the Jets are returning the fewest number of players in the league. They have the most turnover on their roster, and it's something that they really needed to do, right? Like, Aaron Glenn, Darren Muji come in here, and they got to, shuffle the deck a little bit. They tried it with the last group, Joe Douglas, Robert Saleh, the whole thing. We know, unfortunately, it didn't work, and they're going a different direction. I don't know if this 2025 New York Jets team is going to be any good, but they needed a massive shift, and the numbers are backing it up with, like, the data, right? There's, comparatively to the other 31 teams in the league, every single other team is returning more of their players than the New York Jets are. So drastic change is happening right now. Also, some other NFL news. Former Jet Thomas Morstead, who they recently cut, signs with the San Francisco 49ers. I'm happy for him. He's a good guy. Still a capable punter in this league. He was very clear that he still wanted to keep playing, and I think he can. The 49ers are going to be a team that's trying to be competitive. They're a very veteran-heavy team. They're in a window where they're trying to win a Super Bowl. They just signed Brock Purdy. They're going all in. They had a bad year last year, but they're trying to get back to the team that they were, that is one of the best teams in the NFC. So Morstead goes from the Jets to the San Francisco 49ers. And in his mind, hopefully we'll be competing for a playoff spot. So there you go. That's pretty much what's going on right now and what Jet fans are talking about on socials. Let me know down below in the comments what you think of all the latest in the NFL and on the New York Jets. I'm Matt O'Leary. Subscribe if you're new to the show, and I'll catch you next time.